Good morning and welcome. I'm Constable Nicholas Gluckstein with Durham Regional Police Services Public Information Unit, and I would like to thank you for attending this morning's press conference. Durham Regional Police Chief Peter Moreira will be providing information this morning about Project Burton. He will be joined by Detective Daniel Nacarado from the DRPS Gun and Gang Enforcement Unit, who is also available to answer any of your questions. We're also pleased to have with us today Durham Regional Police Deputy Chief Dean Bertram, Detective Inspector Robert Johnson from the Ontario Provincial Police, and Inspector Paul Krofchick of the Toronto Police Services Integrated Gun and Gun Task Force. I would now like to introduce Chief Peter Moreira, who will provide an update on Project Burton.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Education Training Center. I want to also acknowledge our Regional Chair, John Henry, who joins us here today. I want to begin by thanking the Ontario Provincial Police, the Toronto Police Service, and the Criminal Intelligence Services of Ontario, or CISO, for their invaluable partnership throughout this complex investigation. I want to also acknowledge the Ministry of the Solicitor General for their ongoing support throughout this project. Today, we're here to share the results of Project Burton, a 6-month-long multi-jurisdictional firearms investigation that has led to the arrest of 32 individuals, resulting in 184 charges being laid and the seizure of 16 illegal firearms. As the Chief of Police, it's my duty to ensure the safety and well-being of every member of our community. Today, I want to emphasize our ongoing commitment to taking illegal firearms off of our streets. These weapons, in the wrong hands, pose a significant threat to the safety of our neighborhoods and to the lives of our citizens. Our officers are working tirelessly to combat gun violence, and we have already made significant strides in reducing the number of illegal firearms in circulation. Through enhanced patrols, community partnerships, and targeted enforcement operations, we are making our streets safer, one day at a time. Outside of Project Burton, our officers have taken another 50 illegal firearms off of our streets, 18 of them by our frontline uniform officers just this year. Since 2022, our service has seized more than 420 crime guns, staggering statistic. Now I'll provide an update on Project Burton. In January of 2024, members of the Durham Regional Police Services Gun and Gang Unit, alongside our partner agencies, began Project Burton investigation into suspected gang activity within Durham Region. This investigation focused on a group of individuals who call themselves 2230. The origin of the name 2230 stems from a double homicide that occurred at the Boulevard Bar and Restaurant on Simcoe Street North in Oshawa on June 25th of 2022. The victims of this homicide were Joshua Cornell Wong, also known as 22, and Jaheim Spence, also known as G30. Investigators believe the name 2230 was in dedication to them. This group resides predominantly in North Oshawa on Simcoe and Winchester area. They were suspected of being involved in the possession and trafficking of illegal firearms, drug distribution, and various fraud schemes. Their criminal activities stretch well beyond Durham Region, reaching as far as British Columbia. Members of the group have flaunted their illicit earnings on social media, glorified a culture that celebrates financial success through criminal activity. Project Burton concluded with the arrest of 32 individuals, resulting in 184 criminal charges. The charges these individuals are facing include firearms trafficking, illegal possession of weapons, cocaine and fentanyl trafficking, and fraud over $5,000. Out of the 32 individuals arrested, 28 were held for bail hearings. Predictably, 13 of those individuals were subsequently released on bail. Unsurprisingly, 3 are now wanted for breaching their new bail conditions. And we are working hard to locate these individuals, these bail violators. This investigation required the coordinated efforts of over 130 tactical support officers from across the province to execute 20 search warrants within Durham Region, making it the largest tactical operation in Durham Regional Police Services history. Project Burton led to the seizure of 16 firearms, including 12 handguns, 1 rifle, 1 .22 caliber carbine semi-automatic rifle, 2 shotguns. In addition, 7 prohibited devices were confiscated, including 6 extended magazines, a 50-round drum magazine, and an auto sear selector switch capable of converting a handgun into a fully automatic weapon. The project also led to the seizure of approximately 1 kilogram of cocaine and 1 kilogram of fentanyl, and approximately $80,000 in Canadian currency. Investigators have determined that 8 of the handguns came from the US and were illegally smuggled into Canada. One of the handguns had the serial number removed. The investigation continues with warrants out for 2 individuals who we allege are involved in firearms trafficking. 23-year-old Isaiah Bailey Benjamin of Oshawa is wanted for 9 offenses, including unauthorized possession of a firearm and weapons trafficking. And 19-year-old Sebastian Johnson, also from Oshawa, is wanted for 17 offenses, including possession of firearms obtained by crime and possession of a loaded firearm. Our message is clear. Gun and gang activity and the possession of illegal firearms will not be tolerated in Durham Region. We will be relentless in our efforts to identify and arrest those engaged in these and all criminal activities which threatens our communities. But we cannot do this alone. I urge anyone with information on the location of these outstanding suspects to please come forward. And to our community, I ask that if you see something, say something. Report suspicious activity, and let's work together to keep our neighborhoods free from the threat of gun violence. I appreciate your attendance today. Thank you.
Now we'll take some time to field any questions you may have for the chief or for the lead detective on this project.
Chief, I have a question. You mentioned when you were talking about the bail court, predictably 13 got out. You made that point, say specific predictably, and 3 breached their bail. How frustrating is that after all the hard work?
23% of everybody we arrest for firearms-related offense is already out on a firearms bail. We're not the only jurisdiction facing this. I think every police leader has spoken about this. And, this poses not only constraints on police services that already have a finite number of resources and are stretched already when we've already accomplished things, but it adds more pressure, and it adds more pressure to the entire justice system. And so I said this because this is our reality here within our jurisdiction and something that we continue to face.
Chief, can you talk about the number of guns that your officers have reported? You said 400 since 2022.
It's over 420.
Over 420. Are the vast majority of them coming in from the United States? Does it just seem like there's an endless supply? As soon as your officers find one person or find one weapon, but there's just more coming in? Yeah,
all crime guns in the province are traced. It's a requirement. And we're seeing the vast majority of them coming in from the U.S., and, our neighbors to the south are an unlimited supply of firearms, it seems. And we continue to see them being used here.
Can you talk about some of the crime stats? We heard from York's chief just a couple of days ago where he said it feels like the city of Toronto is coming to York region. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's happening here in Durham as well?
Yes, 62% increase in shootings in our region. We are seeing our crime stats also hitting new records. In addition to that, we continue to face pressures on some of the judicial responsibilities we have to provide things like disclosure in a timely fashion. All of these things continue to pressure a system that's already, at its max. And it prevents us as well from engaging in proactive calls when our calls for service are going up. These things aren't unique to the Durham Regional Police Service. I speak with my GTA partners, the chiefs, and everyone is facing the same thing. Response times continue to increase, proactive time keeps going down. The fact that 17 of our firearms that we've seized this year have been from our frontline officers. Those stats should actually be much higher, but officers are obviously stretched, and it adds pressure to the system. All of this to say that there is illegal activity that is happening in our communities. The borders mean nothing to the criminal element, and our group here that we're talking about, although based in Durham region, stretch right across Canada into British Columbia. And so, our search for these individuals that are outstanding also is taking us across Canada.
Talk about some of the gang activity you're seeing here in Durham specifically, because like you said, this group was specifically focused in Oshawa and surrounding areas. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing an increase of gang activity in Durham specifically?
Well, we're seeing an increase in the number of crimes that people usually affiliated with gangs are committing. The organization of these groups can be fluid from time to time. And I'd hate to leave the impression with anyone that I'm talking specifically about, gang crime. Any crime that involves a firearm is obviously of concern. We've seen an increase in the number of robberies and other things with firearms. Knives continue to plague us as well, and we see an increase in the number of calls that we're attending where knives are being used. All of these things are trending up, and the reality is that an individual who's maybe involved in this criminal lifestyle can commit a crime. Oftentimes it's an emotional response to something that has happened, and it not always has something to do with furthering the gang activity. But the fact that these weapons are present and available to these individuals endangers everyone in the community.
When it comes to this group, Chief, and the 2230 group, are the leaders from Durham? And were the leaders amongst the group that you apprehended?
Yeah, our corporate communications will provide a list of these individuals and where they're from, almost entirely from Durham region. And so, yeah, this group is really centered here in Durham region.
When you talk about 6 months that this project took, can you just talk about what that 6 months looks like in the coordination with Toronto Police, the OPP, and your CISO partners? What went into this, the resources?
There is a ton of work that goes in the background. The coordination of any multi-jurisdictional investigation relies heavily upon the pressures that our partners are facing as well. And so to coordinate and to make sure that we're in the best position to collect evidence is a massive undertaking for any lead investigator. And I can tell you that this involves countless hours of surveillance, countless hours of paperwork, drafting, search warrants to obtain documents, planning the proper sequence of arrests and how that's going to happen. And, the real work actually begins now, getting this ready for court and in a timely fashion. And so, throughout this process, we also work with our Crown attorneys, who are just a remarkable group of individuals here in Durham region, and do a great job in being our partners. And so now the work truly begins for our investigators.
Are there more preventative measures that need to be taken to, stop guns from coming in, and stop gun violence in general?
Yes, and I can tell you that the Ontario Associations of Chiefs of Police have spoken about this. So have the Canadian Associations of Chiefs of Police on the need to tighten our border in many ways. I know that CBSA has also spoken about the pressures they're under in terms of monitoring the goods and vehicles and people coming into our country. All of these things, have a cumulative impact and result in what you're seeing here today. The reality is that important strategic investments must be made, and like any investment, we have to prioritize those things that have the greatest impact for the greatest number of people. And we continue to work with our partners on that. In terms of the prevention, I've been a police officer for a long time, and I've worked in the homicide squad for way too many years, and I can tell you that lives change on both sides of that gun. And no one forgets. Like the buddies of the person that is murdered never forgets the other group. And the same thing is true when these firearms are present in our community. And I say this only because none of these things happen in a vacuum. People know that individuals are carrying firearms. Often family members know. Pick up the phone and call us before your life change and the lives of your loved ones change. And I have to tell you, and if my tone sounds a little frustrated, it is because I am, with having to stand before groups and individuals and families and try to explain what is the solutions lie within the decisions that are made by a number of people. But that also includes the Durham Regional Police Service and every police service. And so we continue to work with our partners to bring those solutions to fruition. But if you intend on carrying a gun and engaging in this kind of activity here, there's a whole group of very dedicated women and men who work for the Durham Regional Police Service and our partner agencies who will be looking for you.
Chief, just curious, out of these 32 people charged, how many of them, if any, are young offenders? Because in Toronto, we tend to see the ages getting younger and younger, and young teenagers getting involved in a lifetime, including, I mean, you've got a 19-year-old that you're now looking for.
Yeah, I believe there's 4 young offenders involved in this particular investigation.
So how troubling is that to know that there's people that young or young teens that are choosing a life of crime?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad and troubling that young people choose this as a path to go down. It's often sad the circumstances that bring our young people into this kind of activity, and so we collectively have a responsibility, and that is why in this region we work really, really hard with our partners, and particularly our social services, to develop programs and we share a ton of information to identify those kids early and to try to stop that cycle. But that cycle continues because the need outstrips the resources that any one agency has. And like I've said before many times, it's not a question of who leads, but who leads when in terms of preventing these things from happening. And so we all have a collective responsibility to play.
Chief, you said in your comments that some of these individuals were on social media flaunting what they're gaining, what they're accessing.
Mm-hmm.
How shocking or not shocking is it to see that these people are doing this and flaunting it?
Yeah, this is par for the course. There's this notion out there and this social media presence of many of the people involved in these kind of activities that's celebrated. What's not celebrated is the constant fear that they must live in because there's others that have firearms as well. The constant fear of the rivals and how they can't lead normal lives. All of this. It pales into comparison about the fear that they have that one day one of these individuals will be knocking on their door. In this investigation, we also seized some proceeds of crime and some vehicles. Those things are taken away from you, and that's the message that I want to send to the criminal element.
Your friends from the OPP want to say anything? No.
How much of a threat is this group in Durham region? Has this investigation effectively dismantled this gang, or is this something that
So we've certainly impacted this group. I think it would be disingenuous if I said we've dismantled them. The reality is that there's so many people engaged in this kind of activity that somebody will fill this void, and that's the reality. And so, the next investigation has already begun, and we continue to dedicate resources to identifying the next group that is trying to fill this void. But the work continues, and so will our efforts. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you all for coming today. That concludes our press conference for the day.